If you use like a marker and you trace the border of where the redness is, if that continues to expand and it's red and it's hot, or if the redness starts to travel a blood vessel, that's where you would want to seek medical attention.
Hi, I'm Shanelle, a former nurse, mom to 5, and homesteader alongside my husband. Through this channel and my Ready Family Guide, I help families reclaim health, joy, and purpose at home. Here you'll find natural remedies, from scratch living, and simple steps towards a healthier, more intentional life. Families today need to rise up as the gatekeepers of their homes, protecting what comes in and nurturing true wellness. You are not alone. Welcome to our home era.
This is the October question and answer for all the Ready Family Guide users. If you are interested in checking out this resource, check out the description below. This is my 16 holistic protocols for the top childhood ailments, things from croup, roseola, coughs, headaches, you name it. There's multiple different recipes in there, loads of information, and all of it is infused with faith over fear when you're dealing with these things like fevers, and there's a lot of anxiety that can come with that. That resource gives you a lot of clarity and just not feeling afraid when those things come up. So these questions have been submitted from the families that have purchased my guide. So question number 1, I would like to purchase 100% cotton socks. I cannot find them. Where do you get your socks from? So yes, we love 100% cotton or other natural fibers like linen, hemp, which is quite rare, but out there, wool, and sometimes bamboo. Bamboo gets quite heavily processed, so it's not my top choice, but cotton, 100% cotton is always a yes for us. We actually hardly wear socks. My kids hardly wear socks. Tiny bit in the winter, but because they're homeschooled, we're home all the time, they're not in socks and shoes very often. So I have not put a ton of effort into finding 100% cotton socks. I think our current socks my children are wearing are like 85% cotton. And then there's some spandex in there and probably a little bit of polyester or whatnot. But again, they're on our kids' feet for such a short period of time that it's not something I'm super concerned about. If you are wanting 100% cotton socks, I do know there are some brands out there. Q is for Quinn. I've never personally tried it. It is just a brand that I have seen advertise 100% organic cotton socks for kids. So that'd be a website you could check out. If you can find cotton socks that are, again, 90+%, you're doing a great job. And I wouldn't worry about that little extra, especially when it comes to socks. They're on such a small portion of the body comparatively to, underwear, something you're in all day. It's not something that's coming off during the day at all, like socks my kids often ditch. Your kids might be the same way. But underwear, especially because it's around developing parts, that way higher priority. Those are quite easy to find. Shirts, pants, pajamas, the bedding, all of those things I would place a much higher priority on having 100% cotton over socks. So that's just my take. But definitely check out some brands out there, just searching even 100% cotton socks. And I did find one brand that's just an Amazon brand. I'll link that in the description below as well. You can check those ones out. And those are a pretty decent option for a pretty good price. All right, question number 2. Can I give homeopathy alongside pharmaceuticals like painkillers? This is something I really love about home remedies in general, is that they are so safe and there's not a lot of, or if any, contradictions between giving pharmaceuticals at the same time. If your child is on a puffer, for example, and you also want to use homeopathy or some essential oils at the same time to kind of help their breathing, there's no problem with doing that. If your child is on a lot of very specific medications and you're looking at more high dose herbs, that's where some different contradictions can come in, contraindications can come in. But for homeopathy, there isn't any. So you can super safely use if you have to give a little bit of an ibuprofen or something and using homeopathy or something. I would really encourage you to try just the homeopathy. Try it first, see how things go. You might not need the pharmaceutical. That's always our hope, and we actually don't give pharmaceuticals to our children. We never have had to, thankfully. If a situation warranted it, we would do what we had to do to help our child, of course. But every time we've used homeopathy, herbal things, just encouraging their body, supporting that healing process, that's all we've needed to do. So you can totally use homeopathy and pharmaceuticals same time. That's not a problem. Question number 3. In the guide, I love your portion on nebulizing and how to do saline rinse for nasal irrigation. Can I use pre-made saline, or should I just make my own like you do? What do you think? So honestly, either is great. Pre-made saline is probably, I've never even purchased it, I don't think. It's probably a lot higher of a cost. So if that's not an inhibitor to you and that is simpler for you, go that direction, no problem. Making your own saline with distilled water and pure sea salt that's not iodized, or it's not table salt, it's like pure white sea salt. That's going to be all you need to do. So just look in the guide to see the ratios, and you can use that for nebulizing. You can use that for nasal irrigation for you or your children, like a neti pot or like the syringe method that we use that you have a video for from the guide. And yeah, do what works for you for sure. But the pre-made, that I imagine it's a higher price point. So, and because it's pre-made, you're also it'll eventually expire if you bought like a larger pack of it, where having a distilled water bottle on hand all the time and your pure salt, you can just make it as you need it. Question number 4, we like using humidifier when our children are congested. What is your take on if we should use a warm or a cold humidifier? Okay, so warm humidifiers are basically it's steam. So it's like higher amount of humidity in the air from the steam. The major downside, and the reason that we do not have one, or nor do I recommend one, is that it is incredibly hot water inside of them. The components that are heating the water to create the hot humidified air can burn your child. There could be so many things that could happen there. And so we use cold humidity, and actually I find whenever our children have had respiratory stuff going on, croup, really bad nasal congestion, like any of those things, the cold actually helps. Like it soothes the passages better. And I know for myself too, like if I'm really stuffed up, and yeah, you can get them in the shower and that's technically a warm humidity, but it's going to help with the irritation and that inflammation in the nasal passages better, for me, in my experience, with the cool air. And again, then you don't have any of the risks of burning or scalding or the steam getting too hot or anything like that. You also, with warm, I'm always a little scared of like mold, because that like breeding ground for warm things is so much more significant. Where cold humidifier, of course, it still is water. You're going to want to make sure it completely dries out in between uses and you give it a good scrub and all that to prevent any mold. It just is less likely. So that's my take on that. All right, next question. How long should I let a fever run for? How many days is too long? How high should I let a fever go? Fevers produce a lot of anxiety for me. Yeah, fevers do produce a lot of anxiety, especially when you're a new parent, or even not, if you're seasoned, they can still be something that creates anxiety. That is why I built so much into the guide of prayer and scripture and just truth about fevers. And the truth about fevers is that your body is made to have a fever. It is a beautiful design by our Creator to have the ability to bake off a virus or a bacteria. Now, 20, 30 years ago, it was every fever needs to be given Tylenol. Every fever should be reduced really quickly. That has changed. A lot of doctors now see how important fevers are, and it is not something that they are encouraging to just absolutely kill it, because the body, it's like shooting your watchdog. Your watchdog sees something come on the yard, they're barking, and then you shoot the dog. no, the body is doing what it's supposed to do. It's a warning, but it has purpose. It's scaring off that intruder. And so when you medicate a fever away, you are telling your body, no, we don't need this fever, but your body really wants the fever. It wants to raise that temperature, your baseline temperature, to bake things off. And in my experience with my 4 boys and number five baby coming in a few weeks, every time a fever is part of the initial phase of a virus, or yeah, it's pretty much always a virus probably, but a sickness, that duration of that sickness is significantly reduced to the times when there wasn't a fever involved. It often lingers, and it lingers with like a lot more lingering symptoms. That being said, there are some dangers to fevers that just to be aware of. If your child is under 3 months of age, so a newborn, that is when a fever is always considered a medical emergency. Definitely getting them in to walk in or a pediatrician's office or something like that, because their immune system should not necessarily need to have a fever at that stage. It's just something you really want to be aware of. So under 3 months of age, always going to see a doctor at that point or getting some medical attention. After 3 months of age, though, that's where there's a huge variance in what people are comfortable with. I will share what we do, and you can feel it out and make sure that you feel good about that decision. If fear is guiding the situation, that's always going to create a lot more anxiety. So having a bit of a plan in place, or where your boundaries are. But the biggest thing is always look at your child. I remember getting that advice when I had my first or second baby, and I was talking with a friend who had just had their fourth, and I was really worked up about, I can't even remember the sickness that was happening. I was really worked up about it. And I mean, there was sleep deprivation in there combined. There was lots of things going on. So I was just really worked up. And she said to me, look at your child. Look at him. What is he doing? And I was like, well, he's sitting on the couch. He's playing with a few toys. And she's like, does he look sunken in? Is he breathing rapidly? Is he like moaning and screaming in pain? I was like, no. She's like, he's doing great. So that's a big one. If your child has a fever and there is, they're lethargic, they're not quite themselves, they're kind of clingy, they're upset, maybe they are crying on and off, but they're okay. They're drinking, they're resting, they're able to get comfort of some sort. 90 whatever percent of the time, fevers are going to just be just like that, right? There are some outlier fevers, and there are some rare, but they're possible kinds of sicknesses where fevers want to spike really high for a really long time. And our comfort level within that we've decided, or, again, based on each situation, we kind of we look at the situation and make decisions from there. But about a 41 degrees Celsius fever is 41 to 42 is where my personal boundaries lie, where at that point I would start giving, I would highly look at and consider giving a fever reducing pharmaceutical. Thankfully, we've never had to. We've always been able to let a fever just do its thing. Up to that point, I'm of course doing all of the things. I'm doing the full fever protocol that's in the guide. I'm using the homeopathy, I'm using the essential oils, I'm doing a warm bath, cold sock treatment, I'm offering loads of fluids. Fevers usually are not a problem as long as the child's not dehydrated, and that's the same thing with a lot of sicknesses. Only becomes a problem when dehydration sets in. So I am giving the electrolyte mix, which is in the back of the guide. Check that one out. That is something that no matter what kind of sickness is happening, pretty much every time my child's going to be offered electrolyte drink mix all day long. I always make our own because I love making our own. It's so much more cost effective and I get to control everything in it. Or there are some, pre-made ones that you can make. But offering electrolyte drink mix, offering even pure fruit juice. If my child's just not super interested in drinking lots, I will offer pure fruit juice. It's not something we give very often, but they love it. It's like so sweet, and it's like candy to them at that point, just to continue the fluids going. And then I'll start cutting it with water and whatever. Popsicles, smoothies, soups, broths, like any way to get fluid in. That's going to be, another marker. If your child is quite like high fever and they're not drinking anymore, that's again where you might want to weigh it out if it's something you need to treat. Okay, other part of the question was how many days should I let a fever run for? If again, this really plays into each situation and can be so different. But if your child is overall doing fairly well, they're lethargic, they're not quite themselves, but there are times where they're sitting and playing, they're able to rest, they're drinking, eating a little bit, like, they're still off, but they're overall doing okay. They're not on the extreme end of a sickness. A fever can go for 3, 4, 5 days, as long as the body needs it to, or it can also do one of these where they've got a fever during the day and then at night it goes away and in the morning, or like fevers can do some weird stuff. So if everything else is going well with your child and it's just on and off for quite a few days, I would not be concerned. I would not be doing anything other than my regular holistic remedies. But I know a lot of people have different comfort levels. Feel that out. Make a plan with your spouse, or make a plan that you kind of feel good about. And something else too, and this kind of goes with all types of sicknesses. And I got a little idea from a fellow mom friend who, in her first few years of motherhood, experienced a lot of anxiety, which is similar to me. I mean, that's pretty common for a lot of new moms. But she would write down at the end of a sickness, she would write down kind of what happened. And it was more of a log just to herself to be like, they were okay. Like in the moment, day 2 or 3 of an on and off fever and not sleeping great and your child is just out of sorts, day 2 or 3 it might feel like day 15, but when you look back, you're like, it was 3 days. Like it really wasn't as extreme as it felt in that moment. And that can offer a lot of reassurance to be like, their body is healthy and strong. And that declaration over your children too is so huge. Like just blessing them with the words, your body is healthy and strong. It is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. It is able to take care of this sickness. This sickness is going to go. This is not going to stay. Your immune system is strong. And you declaring that out loud over your children, like the power in that to help break off that fearful panic that can set in, just a night and day difference. And your child's going to see you, they're looking at you like, am I okay? If we're all panicked and we're freaking out and we're doing a whole bunch of things and just giving them every homeopathy in the drawer, like, whoa, have a breath, declare truth, because that's not helpful in that moment. That panic is, they're looking at us for our feedback. They want to know how we're responding. When we respond with so much love and so much truth and not fearful, like it breaks off that fear, and that sickness isn't going to be able to stick around. Next question. My son gets a lot of swelling and redness after a bug bite. When is that a concern, and what can I use? So, swelling and redness after bug bite, incredibly common. Some kids more than the others. I have one son who every bug bite is like quite a swollen, kind of red, feels kind of warm for a few days, pretty much every time. He's had a few wasp stings around his eye, and those have swelled up like his whole eye for a couple days, the poor guy. And we really like the Orange Naturals Bites and Stings homeopathy cream. That is a really, really awesome one. You can do a charcoal application. So you can just bust open a charcoal capsule, mix it with a little aloe or coconut oil or kind of anything that's going to wet it, and you can put that right on the spot and you can leave that. You can even make a charcoal poultice with some sort of a jelly component like gelatin or flax or psyllium husk, something like that. That's going to make like a really nice thick poultice. Actually, I think that's probably a good idea for a video down the road. So stay tuned for that one. You can also use a little bit of baking soda in the mix with the charcoal. The baking soda is one of the main ingredients in a few like pharmaceutical kinds of after bite products, and it's literally baking soda. So you guaranteed have some in your house, and that's going to help draw things out. When it would be a concern, this is a really great opportunity for you to just observe the area. So let's say I had a sting somewhere on my hand. It's red, it's swollen. If you use like a marker and you trace the border of where the redness is, if that continues to expand and it's red and it's hot, or if the redness starts to travel a blood vessel, that's where you would want to seek medical attention. That's where it would look more like a deeper infection, a cellulitis, something like that. If it just stays red in an area, it stays red for a day or two, starts to go away, starts to feel better, pretty typical, not a concern. So the traveling a vein, or when it just keeps expanding and it's really red and it's really hot, that's more this is maybe getting a little too far for home remedy world, and we need to get some medical attention to make sure that this isn't going to become a deeper set infection that could lead to some not good stuff. So that's what we do. That's what we use. And hopefully that helps. All right, last question. I've noticed that some of the Orange Naturals homeopathy blends are no longer available. I'm wondering if you have any replacements. Yes, this is a great question. I've gotten this a few times actually. So I am working on a partnership with a new brand that has some incredible homeopathic blends. Orange Naturals, they just are going in a different direction, I guess. More of their other supplements are more popular. So their, K1, the fever, all that sort of stuff has been discontinued. I still love several of their products that they have. I'm going to keep using them. As far as their homeopathic blends, though, I am sourcing elsewhere. So I am working on getting that partnership so they're sending me some products to try. I want to try their products. I want to, make sure that they line up with all the things that I need them to line up for. And then I will be adjusting the guide and sending out the new link where you can see. And if you've got it printed off already, like just go in there, cross it off. There's not going to be so many pages that it'll be a big deal. But then you'll be able to have a new link to check out the new brand and the different recommendations I have there. So stay tuned for that. They've shipped me the bundle of products for me to test and try, and we're working on just connecting with the company, making sure that it's something that they're comfortable with having a partnership with me and vice versa, and we're going to go from there. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching this Q&A. If you are part of the Ready Family Guide resource users, this is going to be something that you will get a link for every single month to submit a question, and then you can hear your answers and see what I have to say about that. If you do not yet have the Ready Family Guide and you want to check it out, description below will have the link. You can look at it, see what it's going to have for you. This resource is something I was asked to create for years and years and years. And for a long time, I just would answer questions like daily, basically, from different moms and friends. What do I use? How can I help this? What would you do in this situation? Like all that, with my background as a registered nurse that I have now retired from, and doing things in a natural way for a decade now, having my holistic health coach certificate, and just like the tens of thousands of hours of research I've put into all of this. People want to know what I'm doing. And so putting it all together in that guide, the amount of times that I'll get a message in the morning at 6 a.m. that it came through at 3 in the morning, and a mom's just like, I'm up right now with my baby with such and such happening, and I just want to let you know that your guide has given me so much peace. I'm so thankful for it. At 3 in the morning, I can look this up, have a bit of a game plan, know where the boundaries lie of what's something we can handle at home versus when we should be going to seek medical attention, and having all of the scriptures and all that stuff to kind of help support my emotional needs as a mom. Like, they're just so thankful. And it makes me so happy, because if they didn't have that resource, and for years I would get questions and it would be hours later, and I'm like, I'm so sorry I wasn't able to answer your question at that time when you needed me. This is the best case scenario, that they get what they need middle of the night. And I love it, because when I think back to my first few years as a mom, even though we were doing things in a more natural way, there was a lot of fear attached to it. And I still questioned, and I had so much doubt, and I really didn't know if I was doing the right thing. Having something like that at that time would have made a huge difference for me as a mom. And that's why I wanted to create it. I wanted it to be a resource that moms could use and write in and try new things and make a log for their family of what was happening and how it worked, and creating their medicine cabinet in a natural way. Like, it's just so good. So if you want to check that resource out below, that is in the description. And thank you so much. Stay tuned for November's Q&A, which I'm hopefully going to be able to get done really early in the month. My due date is kind of early to mid-November, so the game plan is to make sure that is done before baby comes, and we'll have some more great questions to answer.